Guys, today we have a little bit of a short dev diary for Europa Universalis 5, or as Johan insists on calling it, Project Caesar, where we learn everything we need to know about naval projection, ships in general, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna answer the most likeliest of questions in the comment section. Yes, you will have physical ship in EU5, and they're basically gonna be copy-pasted from EU4 more or less, which also brings me to another thing I have a little bit of a complaint about. I'm not sure if I should talk about it now or at the end of the dev diary. I think it's better I leave it to the end of the dev diary because it's a pretty big one, and I think a lot of you might have had a similar thought to me, and I'm not sure that anything can be done about EU5 at this stage when it comes down to it, but yeah, maybe EU6 we'll have it. Let's see. Ludi, what the hell are you talking about? Don't worry about it, we'll talk about it later. Let's see what Johan has to say. So, importance of maritime presence. First of all, we need to get back to the importance of maritime presence and naval capacity in Project Caesar. Before you can get advanced road networks through your country, your proximity propagation is much faster through places where you have maritime presence. That's pretty historical. Throughout the ages, the coastlines were the best way of delivering resources, the best way of trading. That's why up until modern industrial times, navies were literally the most important lifeline and logistics line for most empires. Any sea zone where you have no maritime presence or a location without a road network costs about 40 proximity to traverse through. Holy shit, that's massive. Okay, which basically means you cannot propagate any control more than 3 locations away. Exactly. Of course, there's also things that impact your proximity costs, like topography, vegetation, development, and societal values as well. Okay, that is actually wild. So it means unless you have a road throughout your whole country, you're basically gonna be really backwards and struggle to actually develop anything outside of your capital. Interesting direction for sure. The heartland has some access, but the coasts are more important to us. So we have here an image, and let me make this a little bit bigger, of Sweden. Now we have the capital, which obviously is Oslo, right guys? And then we have here the coastline a little bit yellowish towards green, meaning that it has increased proximity because of being a coastline province. And then we have the rest of the provinces inland, pretty much super red, with the exception of the ones that have a road going through them. You can see here, right over here, that is a road. And I think somebody answered in the comment section in one of my previous videos what the name of this road is. I don't remember, something about Great Northern Road or some shit. I don't really remember, honestly. But hey, if Sweden has a road in 1337, then I really expect all of Italy to have roads in 1337, and most of France and other parts of Europe, right? For a coastal sea zone, if you have 100% maritime presence, the base cost is 5 per location. Okay, if you have less than 100% maritime presence, it will impact the price accordingly. So at 33% maritime presence and you have no other modifiers, it would be 33 times. Okay, yeah, whatever, bro. It's 28.5. Cool. Lakes and major rivers are always considered to be 100% maritime presence sea zones for proximity calculation and market access calculation. So we have here the proximity to capital for Kalmar, the province of Kalmar. From Kalmar to Kalmarsund, minus 21. Kalmarsund to St. Skargaburg, and so on. So basically, you can see the entire route between Kalmar and Stockholm. These 4 provinces likely have some type of road or something of the sort, which is why it's less reduction for proximity. But between Kalmarsund and Kalmar, there's nothing of the sorts, which is why there's a massive reduction there, at least from what I understand. Why is the sea zone outside Stockholm called Tralvahead? I don't even know what Tralvahead even means. Why are you asking me this, Johan? You should ask your developing team, okay? As you can see here, tracing the proximity out from Kalmar to the sea zone of Kalmarsund is a bit costly, as going from land to sea through a port has a higher base cost. This is severely reduced by the infrastructure and development you have built up in that location, as well as the natural harbor attributes that location has. Oh, I see. And these are the natural harbors all over the coastlines here of Europe. Johan says, this is something new for the game that we have not done before. Really? Natural harbors? Isn't that where you get trade power from in EU4? I'm pretty sure that is where you get trade power from. Except here you don't get trade power, you get proximity. So many locations and such granularity and mechanisms emphasizing a deeper simulation, we have to start treating places different. We don't want to have a Vicky 3 situation where everything feels the same, do we now? As there is a reason why certain places on the map are better suited as ports than others. This is true. This also explains why certain locations grew to be important places in history over others. Okay, I like this. So brighter the green, the better the harbor can be. So essentially what this means is these locations that have a brighter green on the map, if you build a harbor in these locations, you'll get better bonuses from said harbor than you would if you were to say build it in the darker locations, to just basically show how historically some areas were better suited for having a harbor in the shipyard and whatever else than other areas. That's really nice. That's actually really nice. But then according to that, why is Genoa not a little bit brighter green? Because Genoa was a pretty important port as well, right? I would say more important than Nice, personally, I would say. Especially more important than anything Sardinia ever had. I mean, Genoa was one of the big naval powers for quite a while in Europe, right? In the Mediterranean. Of course, you can improve the harbor suitability of a location by building certain infrastructure. Okay, so even if you want to build a harbor but you have a horrible natural harbor, you can improve that by building certain building. Cool. So even if the location you want to build up lacks the natural benefit, it can still be built up even if it's more costly to do so. I'm assuming there's also going to be a reduction in cost itself when you build in a good harbor. The harbor suitability of a location has a significant impact on the trade and proximity calculation, and also impacts how quickly armies can be loaded and unloaded from location. Ooh, that's interesting. See, I like that, man. Like, out of everything I've read in the first part of this dev diary, I'm realizing that one of the major things Johan is focusing on is replayability. Everything is different. Every location feels different. Every location has slight different calculations, variations, vibes to them, which is why you're going to have a lot of fun playing as a massive amount of different nations, right? Because they're not going to feel the same like they do in other games. Not going to mention who, Victoria 3. So harbor suitability for Bristol here, we got natural harbor suitability, which is base 25, and then a wharf was built. So this is the infrastructure building that he's talking about earlier. So if you build a wharf before you build a harbor in that particular location, then you're going to increase the suitability. But still, if you build a wharf in a really good suitable location, it's going to be better than in a horrible one, right? So that's your base suitability there, 35. Further impacted by distance to capital through port, hostile disembarkment time modifier, and friendly trade embark disembark cost. Okay, so trade literally takes your ports to embark and disembark. Now this cost, does this mean that embarking and disembarking through a better port means you're gonna make more of a profit or less of a profit off of that trade route? I would assume so. So then that means whenever you do your trade routes, getting that trade route through the most suitable terrain, be it a really easy to access high suitability or whatever port, is what you should be aiming for, right? Similarly, through the land areas, avoid the mountains, go through the plains where it's easier to travel. Natural harbor suitability of 25 has the following impact: dock cost, shipyard cost, grand shipyard cost, naval base cost, harbor suitability. Hold on a second, I just realized, so this is Bristol, right? Let's check the map. So Bristol is which one? I have no freaking clue. Wait, is it this one? Is Bristol one of the black ones? Oh my god, this is where Bristol is? Ain't no freak. I genuinely thought it's somewhere to the south of London. I am not the smartest. Okay, so now go back. So that means Bristol is going to be this one. It's not too green, not too black either. So this is like a medium-sized natural harbor. So if it's super green, it can probably go up to maybe 50% suitability, which would be pretty cool to see. That means those provinces are going to be extremely crucial when you're thinking about what to take from your enemy. Shipbuilding. One of the disadvantages of playing a naval nation and other games we've made was the simple fact that unless you have a large coastline, you could not compete. Very freaking true. And yes, that is EU4. One of the reasons was the simple fact that you could only build a ship at a time, and if you wanted to recruit a regiment, you could. So in this game, by the way, you can build multiple ships at the same time from the same one location. Keep that in mind. You'll see here, the Venetian arsenal gives you shipbuilding capacity +4. So if you build the Venetian arsenal, which I would assume is a unique building that you can only build in Venice, then you'll be able to build 4 4 more buildings at the same time in Venice. And see, it also says you can build ships here. So you cannot just build ships anywhere unless you have a harbor or shipyard or whatever it's called, or Venetian or in Project Caesar. There's 3 different construction queues in a location. First, there is the civil one for buildings, RGOs, and all other non-military oriented things you can do in the location. So that means the civilian one is where you build all the buildings with the exception of the military ones. Second queue is army base queue. So I'm assuming that means all the military buildings plus actual units. And the third one is the naval base queue. So that means you can recruit regiments at the same time that you build ships in a location. Okay, that's good. So you can have both army and military and ships recruited at the same time. That's awesome. So there's going to be different queues for that. That's really, really good. We also added the concept of parallel shipbuilding in a location, like I said, where buildings can unlock additional shipbuilding slots in a location. At the end of the game, you can build close to 20 ships at the same time in the same shipyard with all the related advances and other stuff unlocked. So this is making me think that ships are going to play a much bigger role in EU5 than they're playing in EU4, which is not much of a role at all. Blockades, one of the more powerful abilities that you can do during a war is blockading another nation coast. This should be devastating because it basically means if you were to rely on a specific items for trade for your nation to function, and those items cannot arrive to your nation because the route has been blocked by the enemy, you're going to collapse economically. They don't even need to fight you. They just block your route and then you will have to give up eventually, right? The immediate impact is a reduction of food production, maximum control, and making trades being more costly and likely to reroute. So you can still do trade, but you have to reroute around the blockade. There's also the fact that development growth is severely slowed, the decline of prosperity, and a dramatic reduction of your maritime presence. As some say, an image tells you more than 1,000 words. We'll use a free screenshots. Okay, so blockaded by the enemy gives you prosperity minus 2%, max control minus 10%, maritime presence minus 2 flat, food 50%. Oh my holy bro, whoa, that is the meta. I'm calling it out right now. For multiplayer, the meta is stay at war for as long as possible, block their food, kill off their population so they cannot match up to you ever again. That's it right there. Development growth reduction 20%, so we have confirmation that we have development now in EU5. Trade embark disembark cost plus 200%. Even with only a single port fully blockaded, the maritime presence in the sea zone is severely impacted and will take many months to recover unless you got coastal fort or navies patrolling it for a long time after a war. Interesting. So monthly change for County of Holland. Maritime presence increases because of the Hague, Dordrecht, and Rotterdam, and decreases because of the one port that is blockaded. The other four ports increase. The one blockaded decreases tenfold. Decreases. Not all ships are great at blockade, as you most likely want to have heavy ships or light ships to do the blockading, so no galleys. Blockade capacity of 2 ND Navy, 17 traditional galleys, 1.7 blockading, and 1 hulk is 0.01. A hulk I would assume is a transport, right? Type of hulk doesn't smash. Not all locations are equal, and different population infrastructure development increase how many ships are required to blockade a location, just like it is in EU4, so that makes sense. Coastal location of Gertrudenburg, population capacity, food production, supply limit, development growth, because it's a coastal province. Wow, okay, so you want to have a lot of coastal provinces. And then required blockade is 1.02 because of the port built there, because of the development, and because of the population. So for Constantinople or some of the other massive cities, you're going to need how much? A lot more, right? Also, I know this is completely random, but I really do hope that we see the Danube as a navigable area, and the Volga and a few other big rivers like the Nile. I hope we can send ships on them, because this happens. Ships go on these big rivers. Historically, they have. Not just during the Viking Age. Even today, they go on these freaking big rivers. And in history, they did go on these big rivers. Please let us have ships on the big rivers. Ship repair. Every month that a fleet is in a sea zone that is not adjacent to a friendly port, they will start taking attrition. This attrition is increased dramatically if the fleet is outside the naval range. This attrition creates a chance for ships to be damaged. A chance, not a confirmed thing. So it's going to be like a dice roll every month that they're going to get damaged. Whilst usually you can only repair a ship in a port, there are advances in some ages that allow you to repair your ships in coastal sea zone, where where at the Age of Revolutions, you can repair a ship up to 50% efficiency without going back to a port. Okay, so that's literally copy pasted from EU4 again. Naval range is calculated from every core port that you own or is owned by one of your subjects or someone you have negotiated fleet basin rights with. Ooh, that is dangerous. Why that's dangerous? Because you could say, for example, increase your naval range massively by just getting fleet basin rights in other parts of the world without, you know, actually owning. So say, for example, I own one province in the north of Europe. I don't know, freaking the capital of Sweden is my only province, Oslo, right? And then I get fleet basin rights in Tunis, and I just use the fleet basin rights in Tunis to harass people around Tunis, right? Come on, you know what I mean? Neighbors of Tunis anyway. Transporting troops. So ships in Project Caesar all have the capacity to transport regiments, all of them, including heavy ships, light ships, galley. The transport capacity of a ship is not measured in regiments, but in the amount of men it can carry. Because remember, that varies a lot more in EU5 than it does in EU4. Usually the transport ships are far better at carrying regiments, but other ships can carry as well. So what I assume from this is that you're going to be able to carry way more troops with dedicated transports than you would be able to carry with heavy ships, for example. We've also automated transportation similar to EU4 to make moving armies around the world less painful. Good. Combat in a naval battle. Wait, why did you mention EU4 out of all the games? Oh my god, I'm so confused. Oh. Call it EU5 already, Johan. Come on. Call it EU5. Announce it, please. The hype is dead. Everybody knows it's EU5. In a naval battle, there is no separate bombardment phase as some ships have guns and they tend to want to use them constantly. Otherwise, it works similar to land combat in that you have different sections, but the individual ship you have will fire upon each other. Wow. We actually are getting a decent naval combat system. That's good to see. Basically, a copy-paste of the land, from what I understand. While it comes to the actual combat algorithm, ships work a bit different, and there's no combat power or amount of soldiers fighting to consider. But instead, ships have an amount of cannons and hull size. Cannons are the offensive value, hull size is the defensive. 4 categories: heavy ships, light ships, galleys, and transport, just like in EU4. In each category, there are at least one ship in each age that can be researched, but there are also many unique ships that can be built. There's no real restriction on what roles different ships can perform, but a transport is not the best at blockading, and a light ship may not be ideal for transporting a lot of soldiers. Each type of ship differs on how many trained soldiers they need for their crew, how many cannons they can have, and more. And you can also raise ships as levies for your population, but those are usually best suited to transport armies for short distances and should not be relied upon in sea battles. Interesting. Raise levy ship. Now we also have here the Catalan Galley, which is a unique ship. So we have confirmed unique ships from the launch of the game, something that we already have in EU4. Glad to see it's making its way to EU5 from the get-go, from the launch. Significantly more expensive, has a lot more units apparently than a traditional galley double, but it also has more guns, 2 more guns, and 1 more hull. So it's 10-7 compared to the 8-6, which is the standard traditional galley. Johan says that he never really liked the flagship stuff. I think the flagship stuff is really freaking great personally. And this takes me down to what I was talking about at the start of the dev diary here. I like all the stuff that I'm seeing from the Army and the Navy dev diaries, but the reality is that this is just copy pasted EU4 with some extra small steps. Nothing new here. Nothing amazing. Like, I want to love it. And trust me, I do love it because I love EU4. But I was kind of hopeful that we see like a more modular sort of system for both armies and navies. Again, I'm not sure if there's going to be what I'm talking about or not, because I don't play the game. I don't know what the game is like, right? This is all assumption. So if I'm wrong about this, I'm more than happy to be wrong about this. Here's my take, right? I would like to see stuff like the flagship. I would like to be able to change the amount of cannons on your ships, to change the style of ship, to have like in Hoi 4, like a ship that you can design yourself, a regiment that you can design yourself, that you can equip them with whatever weapons you have, that say you can have one regiment with the guns, one regiment with swords, because you don't have enough guns in your army, because you haven't built enough guns in your storage and stuff, right? I would like to see that. From what I'm reading for these dev diaries, it seems like that is not the case here. It seems like it's quite literally just a copy paste of EU4, with combat being essentially Imperator combat, a little bit influenced by CK3, and that's pretty much it. I was really hopeful, but reading some of the replies from Johan really makes me think that this is literally nothing more than just what they told us. So no Hoi 4 style modulary divisions and stuff like that. Again, it's not confirmed. It's just what I'm getting from the comments. But I really would love to see more flagship stuff, which Johan apparently hates. So it is what it is, right? I'm curious what you guys think about this. Would you like to see EU4 the way it is right now, but when it comes to the armies, have the ability to change the equipment for every regiment, have the ability to have multiple fronts within one engagement, and make it so that the position of the unit on the map itself is important? Or do you just want EU4 again with like 2 more buttons where you decide if you go on the flanks or not with a certain unit? We waited 10, 11 years by the time this is coming out for the same game. And then let me guess, we're gonna get a DLC later down the line that's gonna allow us to have flagship. Get what I'm saying here? Why not have flagships from the get-go? And then we get a DLC for something else that we're really gonna love, of course, too. And then we're gonna pay for that too, because it's probably the greatest fucking grand strategy game out there. Like, from what I'm reading from EU5, 100% this is the greatest grand strategy game out there. It combines all the stuff that we love from all the grand strategy games that Paradox has released so far. He mentioned naval doctrines are basically a law now in EU5. He does confirm that some unique buildings will be built from day one. He mentions that the Venetian arsenal will be there from day one, which is awesome because it should be there from day one, just like Hagia Sophia should be there from day one in Constantinople, which I also assume is going to be a unique building, and other main historical monuments and buildings that I think are going to be a great addition to the game itself, right? Wow, so there's 63 locations that have 100% harbor suitability. So I thought that's going to be 50% with a really bright green, but it's 100% harbor suitability. So I'm assuming that's going to be like Venice, Malta apparently, and a few other places. That's awesome. Confirms that galleys will get an automatic bonus in inland seas and an even higher bonus in narrows. Canoes are going to be a thing, and they're the most primitive galley you can build, which I would assume is for the New World natives. And we also see the bonus here, 25% in inland sea and 50% in narrows. They're naturally weaker than other warships of the same age, but will likely win a one-on-one fight against the light ships with those modifiers. Kind of getting the vibe that galleys are not going to be worth it unless you're really specifically stuck in a spot, in which case you probably don't want to really bother with the ship that much anyway. And also confirms heavy ships are going to be the greatest one-on-one. He hints at the fact that a small fishing village like Skonagas that built in 1775 8 ships for the Royal Navy, including 2 galleots. So what this means is Johan is making excuses to make Sweden overpowered again, okay? I'm calling it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. We're gonna have the little Schnappledorp village of Skagadabu be able to field 1 million units by 1800, okay? For some reason, a lot of people coping really hard about Carthage. Like, what the fuck you on about, my dude? Oh, you have Venetian arsenal, but what about Carthage? Johan makes a good point. Carthage has been dead for 1,480 years. And not only that, but the area in North Africa at the time was not that great overall from any sort of financial perspective to field anything as grand as what the Carthaginians used to field back in the day. So people really coping. This is not even the first guy. I saw like 5 guys asking about Carthage. What the fuck you people on about? That's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.